Your baby just rejected their favorite food for the third day in a row, and every grandparent, friend, and online forum is screaming that something's wrong. But what if I told you that forcing them to eat right now could actually damage their relationship with food for life? Between 9 and 10 months, nearly 70% of babies suddenly become pickier eaters, and panicked parents make the same catastrophic mistake. They start pressuring, bribing, and forcing bites. Here's the debate nobody's having. What if your baby's decreased appetite isn't a problem to solve, but a developmental milestone to respect? But here's what's really haunting. Why does the exact same biological mechanism making your baby refuse food now actually predict their chances of avoiding obesity as a teenager? Stay with me, because the answer will completely change how you approach every meal. Let's release the tension with cold, hard biology. Your baby's appetite is decreasing because their growth rate just fell off a cliff, and that's exactly what's supposed to happen. In their first year, babies triple their birth weight, an insane metabolic demand. But after month 8, their growth rate drops by nearly 60%. They're suddenly burning fewer calories because they're not building a whole new human every few weeks. Their brain is doing the math perfectly. Less growth equals less fuel needed. This isn't pickiness, it's precision. Meanwhile, their energy is shifting from building body mass to developing neural pathways, motor skills, and cognitive functions. The decreased appetite isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature. Your baby's internal appetite regulation is actually more accurate than any feeding chart or pediatrician's growth curve. Evolution spent millions of years perfecting this system. But here's where the debate gets heated. If their appetite is so perfectly calibrated, why do so many parents feel like they're losing control? Because you are, and that's the whole point. Child feeding expert Ellen Satter developed the division of responsibility model. And it's shockingly simple. Parents decide what food is offered, when it's offered, and where it's offered. The baby decides whether to eat and how much. That's it, no negotiation. But this triggers every parental instinct screaming that you need to control intake, manage nutrition, ensure they eat enough. The tension, trusting a 9-month-old feels terrifying. We see those tiny portions and imagine malnutrition, developmental delays, failure to thrive. But studies show babies who are allowed to self-regulate their intake have better weight outcomes and healthier eating behaviors into adolescence. The control you're desperately grasping for is exactly what's undermining their natural ability. Now for the release that every parent needs to hear. When you pressure a baby to eat, you're not just winning a battle over broccoli. You're rewiring their brain's relationship with hunger cues for decades. Research from the University of Michigan found that children who were pressured to eat as infants showed a 35% higher likelihood of emotional eating by age 5. Here's why. Forcing food overrides their internal satiety signals, teaching them that external pressure matters more than internal hunger. They learn to ignore their body's "I'm full" message. Even worse, restricted foods become hyper-rewarding. The foods you push become foods they'll reject as toddlers. Every just one more bite erodes their trust in their own body. This isn't about being permissive or neglectful. It's about understanding that appetite regulation is a skill they're born with. But pressure can destroy it. You're not teaching them to eat. You're teaching them to override themselves. So what's the tension-filled alternative when your baby eats 3 bites and throws their bowl on the floor? You do absolutely nothing. You stay neutral. This is the hardest parenting skill nobody warns you about. Radical neutrality at mealtimes. Offer a variety of nutritious foods, proteins, vegetables, fruits, whole grains, at regular intervals, roughly every 2 to 3 hours. Then you become Switzerland. They eat a ton? Neutral. They eat nothing? Neutral. No praise for eating, no disappointment for refusing, no bargaining with dessert. Because here's the tension. Every reaction, positive or negative, teaches them that eating is about pleasing you, not nourishing themselves. Babies are scientists. They're testing cause and effect. If refusing food gets a big reaction, they'll refuse food to see it again. Neutrality removes eating from the power struggle arena. It's brutally difficult because you care deeply, But your calm indifference is actually the most loving response. The question is, can you trust their body more than your anxiety? Here's the beautiful release. The less you pressure, the more they eat over time. It's called the pressure paradox, and it's backed by decades of feeding research. When meals become low stakes, babies explore food freely. They touch, smell, squish, taste, and spit out without fear of disappointing anyone. This sensory exploration is how they learn to accept new foods. It takes an average of 15 to 20 exposures before a baby accepts a new food, but only if those exposures are pressure-free. The moment you add pressure, you reset the counter to zero. Even subtle pressure, good job eating, shifts their motivation from internal curiosity to external approval. And here's the paradox's most beautiful aspect. When you stop caring whether they eat, they start caring about eating. Appetite returns because the stress is gone. Their natural hunger cues emerge. Mealtimes transform from battlegrounds to exploration zones. The control you released comes back as their self-control, and that's a gift that lasts a lifetime. But let's add necessary tension. When should you actually worry? Decreased appetite at 9 to 10 months is normal, but there are legitimate red flags that require medical attention. If your baby is losing weight across 2 consecutive checkups, that's a red flag. If they're lethargic, not meeting developmental milestones, or showing signs of dehydration, fewer than 6 wet nappies daily, sunken soft spot, dry mouth, call your pediatrician immediately. If they're refusing all foods and all liquids for more than 24 hours, that's urgent. If you notice gagging, choking, or distress during eating beyond normal learning messiness, get evaluated for oral motor issues or swallowing difficulties. These aren't about appetite. They're about medical conditions that need intervention. But here's the critical distinction. A healthy, active baby who's simply eating less than last month but still gaining weight, producing wet nappies, and hitting milestones, that's normal development, not a medical emergency. Trust the overall pattern, not the daily drama. And now you know the answer to the question from the beginning. Why does your baby's appetite decrease predict obesity protection as a teenager? Because babies who are allowed to honor their decreased appetite at 9 months are practicing appetite autonomy, the ability to eat when hungry and stop when full, regardless of external pressure. This skill, preserved through childhood, is the single strongest protective factor against obesity, disordered eating, and food anxiety in adolescence. Every time you trust their no at 9 months, you're teaching them that their body's signals matter more than anyone's expectations. The truth is, your baby isn't broken. Your expectations might be. Their decreased appetite isn't a problem to fix. It's a competency to protect. Stop forcing. Start trusting. The relationship with food you're building right now at this high chair will echo through every meal for the next 70 years. So the real question isn't how to make them eat more. It's whether you're brave enough to let them eat less.